Today's case is the case of Ebby Jane Steppach. She was an 18-year-old senior who lived in Little Rock, Arkansas, and disappeared on October the 24th, 2015. By all accounts, Ebby was so full of personality. She was a typical 18-year-old girl. She loved her family. She loved her friends. She had even decided to switch schools. So she had went to a private school all her life until her senior year, and she transferred to a public school. And she also got a job at Foot Locker, which she had been trying to get. But at this point, her family also says that they kind of started noticing a shift in Ebby's actions, a shift in how she interacted with her family. She started getting in a bunch of arguments with her parents. She would lie about where she was going. Her grades were slipping. She would skip school. And her parents kind of chalked this up to being a typical 18-year-old. You know, I think everybody kind of goes through that stage as a teenager where you kind of want to rebel. And that's what her family figured that this was. And that eventually it would pass. Ebby decided to move out of her parents' house, and her parents really didn't argue about this because Ebby had always been a really independent girl who could take care of herself. So they thought maybe this would be a good thing. Ebby house jumped for a little while once she moved out. She kind of stayed with her friends, her grandparents, her brother. But right before she disappeared, the last place she was staying was at her brother's house. The weekend that Ebby went missing was full of horrible events. She went to a party that Friday where she was assaulted by 4 boys. And then on that Saturday, she called her stepdad and explained to him what had happened with the assault and that she really wanted to file a police report. So her stepdad said, "All right, honey, we'll do that. Let's just get everything together and we'll figure out a day, a plan, and we'll go file the report. Are you sure that's what you want to do?" And she said, "Yes, I'm 100% sure that's what I want to do." Earlier that day, she had called one of her really good friends and had said that she was so hurt by it and felt so violated that she actually had thought of committing suicide. Ebby gave her dad the name of the 4 boys that had been in the assault and even told him that she thinks that they actually recorded it on their cell phones. So the day that Ebby went missing, she was actually with her grandparents, and she told them that she would be back later, she was going out, and that she would return in just a little while. After a little while, no one could get in contact with Ebby. Her brother called several times, and nobody could ever get in touch with her until finally, after multiple calls, she answered the phone for her brother. And that's where stuff starts getting really strange. Ebby's brother had asked her where she was at, and Ebby replied that she was outside of his house. So, of course, her brother gets up and he walks outside to see if Ebby needs help or what she's doing outside, and she's not there. And so he calls Ebby back, and he says that this is the most disturbing thing. He has never heard his sister sound like this. Her voice was raspy. Once Ebby's brother gets a hold of Ebby, he asks her what she's doing, and she says that she's outside of his house. So, of course, her brother goes outside to check on Ebby when she's not there. So he calls her back and says, you know, "Hey, I walked outside, you're not there, what's going on?" And Ebby says, "I don't know. I'm confused. The only thing that I know is I'm with my car. I don't know who I'm with, and I don't know where I'm at." And her brother, to this day, says that he has never heard his sister sound like that before, ever. She sounded out of it. After this, her brother called the police department. Of course, he's worried. Would you imagine that kind of phone call from your sister? Like, you've never heard your sister like this before, and then you get that phone call, and then you don't hear back from her again. So her brother called the police, but the police informed him that he would have to wait 12 hours before any paperwork could be filed on Ebby. At this point, Ebby's parents really weren't very concerned. Ebby had been rebelling lately, and they kind of thought maybe she's just blowing off some steam and not really wanting to speak with us right now. After a little while of not being able to get in touch with Ebby, they realized this was not a normal, just her going off on one of her tangents. Something was really up. Immediately, Ebby's mom started contacting everyone that she knew who she thought would know maybe where Ebby was at. She even searched everywhere that she knew that Ebby could be, and there was no trace of Ebby. People were calling and texting Ebby repeatedly with no answer. So as of now, all we know is that the last time anyone ever spoke to Ebby, well, in her family at least, was that last phone call from her brother. After 12 hours, the family went to the police department and was ready to file a report. And they were told that since Ebby was 18 and she had already moved out of her house, that all they could classify her as was a runaway. Ebby's parents knew that Ebby wouldn't just run away without keeping in contact with anyone. You know, she had been going through this rebellious stage and going through this awkward stage that nobody was ever dealt with Ebby before. But they knew that Ebby loved her family, and she wouldn't just leave everyone that she knew and just go off by herself. They knew this was not like Ebby. They finally got told who was going to be working Ebby's case. They were also informed that he was out on leave, so it would be some time before he could even start on the case. And this is the first incident where I really think you start to see that the police did not take this case as seriously as they should. I mean, once we get more into this case and you hear of all the just downright neglect, it's crazy. And I think you'll understand more of what I mean when we get into here. But the police really neglected this case, and they did not take it as seriously as they should have, I think, from the beginning. And that is just drives me wild about this case. So after getting the call about the officer that was on their case, that he wouldn't be able to take it for a while because he was on leave, they decided that they were going to go down to that police department and they were going to get somebody to listen to them about their daughter's case. But as soon as they walked in, they just started getting hounded and questioned, and it really wasn't helping anything at this point. But they did get a new police officer to take over Ebby's case. This police officer actually told the family not to speak with media, which to me is crazy, because now we have social media, you know, everybody has TVs, like, and even, I mean, it was not that many years ago. How could you not go with the media? It helps get it out there. It can get your picture hundreds of thousands of miles away, and everybody can be looking for this person, Ebby, you know, and her mom realized that. And so her mom started telling everyone that she knew, because the more people you have helping search for someone, the better chance you have. Ebby's mom started calling around everybody that she knew, explaining to them what had happened, and she actually got some information that Ebby had been hanging out with a rather rough crew of friends. At this time, Ebby's car description was out, and everybody was kind of looking on Ebby's social media and hoping maybe she would come back, because Ebby was very big on social media, and it was silent, which was so out of the normal for Ebby. 5 days after Ebby went missing, Ebby's car was found in Shalamont Park in Little Rock, Arkansas. So basically how this took place is they called Ebby's parents and informed her that they had a car that looked like Ebby's that had apparently been abandoned for a week in this park, but that they weren't sure. So Ebby's brother and stepfather had to go down there and identify the car, which really kind of aggravated them, because they could have just run the VIN, because everything was in Ebby's name on that vehicle. But Ebby's brother and her father did confirm that this was Ebby's vehicle. The car was found less than 4 miles away from their home. And here's some of the kind of crazy information with the car. So the car was left running until it ran out of gas and it died. And basically when the car was left, it was just left on. It was just left sitting there. Everything at Ebby's was left in this car. Her makeup, her cell phone, her contact lenses. And from what I've heard from her mother, Ebby loved her makeup. She loved it. She spent money on it. She spent extra time doing it. She would never have left that just laying there. She wouldn't have left any of her stuff. And like her mom said, even her contact lenses, because she really didn't have good vision. So here's where the police negligence really kind of starts for me, I think, is Ebby's car was sitting there for a week, and multiple people had called her car in saying there is an abandoned car here, you need to come look at it. Even the security guard for Shalamont Park called 2 days in a row to let them know this car is sitting here, it needs to be come checked out, and nobody came until finally a neighbor called and demanded someone come look at this car that has been sitting here for a week with everything left in it. And finally, someone came out there, and it was Ebby's car. You know, if that would have been found earlier, maybe more could have been done. Maybe something would be there that wasn't there a week later, you know? Like, to me, that is what is wild. If you're getting calls about this, and multiple calls at that, shouldn't you go check this out? I mean, a random car sitting in the middle of a park, day in, day out for a week, and nobody seems to care. Well, nobody at the police department seems to care. So once Ebby's car was found, the search began. They put bloodhounds out at Shalimont Park. They did a search. They tried to cover all their bases in Shalimont Park, I guess. So the way that you go into this park is there is a Walmart, and you have to drive past the Walmart to get into the park. So Ebby's mom believed that, you know, Ebby probably would have stopped at Walmart, maybe got a drink, maybe went in with somebody. You know, if we got the surveillance footage, we could see. And so she explained that to the police department. Can we get the surveillance camera from Walmart? Because even if you just had to use the restroom, that's the only place to stop when you're going into that park if you need to do something before you get in there. And Ebby's mom went to the police department and asked, can we get the footage from Walmart? And the police sergeant literally told her, there's too much footage. We don't have enough time to sit down and look through all that footage. Basically not going to happen. Like any worried mom said, I'll do it. I'll sit down and go through as many days as I have to figure out what my daughter was doing, if she was here, and who she was with. And the police sergeant told her, I don't know if we're allowed to do that. I'll let you know. And he never let her know anything. The footage was literally never pulled, ever. So another thing that was messed up on the police end was they actually pulled Ebby's cell phone number. Another thing that was kind of messed up, another thing that was messed up on the police end was they pulled Ebby's phone number to ping the number, you know, because you can ping it off of certain satellites and see, you know, around a range where the person was at the last time the phone pinged. So once they pinged it, it said that Ebby was like 30 miles outside of town. They started searching here for Ebby, where the phone pinged at. And then they got a phone call saying, we pinged the wrong phone number, and this is not actually Ebby's phone number. Ebby's phone pinged at Shalimont Park, where we thought she was at the first time where her car was found. The police department literally pinged the wrong phone number when trying to place a missing person. I don't understand that at all. I don't understand it. At this point, the police had actually tried to say that Ebby's stepfather had something to do with it, that Ebby's stepfather hurt Ebby or did something to Ebby, and that her mom was literally covering up for him. And at this point, her mom's looking for Ebby basically more than the police department is. She's trying to do more. And that, I think, was so hard that would be hard for any parent to deal with, being accused of doing this to your own child who you are worried sick about, and they're sitting here trying to look at you, which I will say, I do understand usually when people go missing, the first people that they look at are the people closest. So at this point, her mom decided she was going to start doing her own little investigation. Ebby's mom had kind of started thinking maybe it was sex trafficking, because that really, people don't understand that it is such a big thing around here. Like, sex trafficking is big all over the United States. I used to think it was literally other countries and we never had anything to worry about until I actually started looking into it and realizing how big it is everywhere. When Ebby's mom brought this up to the police department, they literally told her that there is no sex trafficking around here, and most of the people that say they're in sex trafficking are just prostitutes that decided to do this with their lives. Really? So the police department had gotten back with Ebby's mom after all this frustration's been going on and let her know, hey, we can't get into Ebby's phone. It was locked, we can't get in it. So Ebby's mom decided to hire her own person to get into Ebby's phone. Well, he did. And I can't tell which one it is because I kind of got a little confused trying to find this information. But either somebody had got on Ebby's phone and was trying to get into her Facebook account or her social media account, or whoever entered Ebby's phone through her mom changed the password so nobody could get into Ebby's account. But I'm not sure which one it was. But either way, it made the police totally mad that things were getting changed on, I guess, not their end. So they actually let Ebby's mom know that if she did not stop, that they would arrest her for interfering with the investigation. So I guess you remember when I was talking about Ebby's car being found, that the security guard had called 2 days in a row to report Ebby's car. Well, it took them 4 months to talk to the security guard. And when they did, we actually learned a good bit of information from him. The security guard had dash cam footage of a couple of days before. He had kicked Ebby out of the park actually multiple times. The first time she was in the car with 2 black males. The second time she was in the car with 1 black male, and then the third time she was in the car with 3 black males. And the reason I'm saying this is because it really, in a little bit, I'll come back and tell you exactly how these men intertwine in Ebby's case, especially with what we're thinking of as sex trafficking at this point. So with him having his dash cam footage, with them waiting 4 months, the footage was no longer available of Ebby being at the park and him having any contact with Ebby. So once again, that's 2 things of footage that could have actually potentially helped this case gone because they waited too long. So the police department pulled in the 4 boys and talked to them and asked them, you know, hey, we were told about this and the girl is missing now. We were told about the assault. Can we look at your phones and see if the video's on there? Blah, 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 blah. And the men literally told them, the boys told them, no, you can't see my phone. And they left it at that. They let the boys leave with the phone that could eventually have the video on it that would, you know, prove that Ebby was assaulted. They let them leave with it. And I cannot. They just let them leave. So at this point, they've lost actually 3 things of footage. The Walmart footage, the body cam footage, and the boy's cell phone of the alleged sexual assault is gone. The police department at this point is where they really, really lose me and really, really upset me. They still thought at this point that Ebby's stepfather had something to do with her disappearance. And they were actually sending her mother horrible, horrible text messages about why she was covering up for him and that's her daughter and she should not be doing that. And literally at late hours of the night, sending these rude, hurtful, just, I can't even explain it. Just these dirty text messages that should have never, ever been sent to anyone, much less a victim's mother. I don't understand it. So 8 months after Ebby disappeared, somebody else decided that they were going to look onto the case, and that's when we found out some more information about the police department. Police report and the private detective's report that decided to take on the case did not match at all. The information that was found did not match at all. Nothing that the private detective had actually looked into and looked into hard matched anything that the police department had. Come to find out, the sergeant had lied and falsified papers. He never did interviews. He lied about a bunch of evidence. Some of the stuff wasn't even taken into evidence. And he actually, I want to say he said that he was going to bring the boys back in again to interview them, and then he just didn't. So a lot of things he had lied about and falsified. I mean, that's just, he did. And they pulled him off the case as soon as they found that out. Then the case was handed over to the homicide detectives. So the homicide detectives told Ebby's parents about Suzanne's law. Someone too old for Amber Alerts, like 18, 19, 20, can actually be put into the database for missing and exploited children through Suzanne's law. So they actually put Ebby in the system, which was great. It was a big step, a big milestone for this case. Putting Ebby into the missing and exploited children's database really helped a lot because it opened up all new doors. They got a bunch more help from the center. Like, it really changed the searching in the case. It really changed a lot about the case, getting her into that database system. So TJ Ward is a private investigator. You guys may know him, you may not. He was actually the private investigator in the Natalie Holloway case, and he has decided to take on Ebby's. TJ says that he is already looking into some new evidence that could have been missed before, and that he has some things that he wants to look into. So now we're going to talk about the heartbreaking discovery. There's a drainage pipe in the parking lot at Shalimont Park where Ebby's car was found, and there was a blockage in this drainage pipe. So they decided to do some construction, and when they opened it up, they found the body of Ebby Jane Steppach. Hey everyone, here's a picture of where Ebby's car was to where the drainage pipe was. Sorry I had to break in like this, but I couldn't figure out how to do it otherwise. So there you go. Ebby's body was found May 24th of 2018, and I think it was some relief from her mom. I actually watched where her mom said that a couple of days before she had actually been up writing things out for Ebby's funeral, planning Ebby's funeral. One thing that Ebby's mother didn't know is that weeks and weeks after Ebby went missing, people were actually making 911 calls about the smell that was coming from this park. They said there was a terrible, terrible odor. They had called and nobody came out. And her mom still says she wishes that she would have known that, because maybe she could have found her daughter soon. But this is a horrible case. And I don't even know if you say that is, I guess it's closure that she found her. I guess it's closure that her body was found, but it's just heart-wrenching. Heart-wrenching to think that you were that close and, you know, missing information, and maybe if it would have been handled differently, there would have been a different outcome or more information on the outcome. And, you know, it is definitely a homicide. Somebody, not to sound terrible, had to put her in that drainage pipe whenever she was dead. And that is the case of Ebby Jane Steppach so far. Hopefully there's more information to come out soon, and I really think that this case will be solved. I really do. Bye, everybody. Thanks.